All right, hey guys, welcome to this video on the pancreas and how to heal your pancreas for better digestion. So this will be a continuation of our series on organs of digestion. Last time we talked about the stomach. Today we'll dive deeper into the next step of digestion, which is your pancreas function. Now, the pancreas, when it comes to digestion, is an often overlooked organ, but it plays dual roles in digestion and also, as we know, blood sugar regulation. We're not going to talk about that so much today, but we're going to focus more so on the aspects of the roles that it plays in digestion. Your pancreas is located behind your stomach, and it acts as both an exocrine and an endocrine gland. So what that means is that exocrine functions are glands that secrete their substances through a duct. So think sweat glands, tears, saliva, mammary glands that secrete breast milk. As far as the pancreas's exocrine function, it's your digestive enzymes. Now, it also plays a dual role in endocrine function. What is that? That's hormones released directly into the bloodstream. That would be insulin and other hormones, mostly for blood sugar regulation. Today, we're going to focus mostly on the digestive aspects of pancreas function. Now, when we think about the pancreas, we're mostly thinking about pancreatic enzymes that help to break down our food so that your nutrients can be absorbed effectively. Many patients I work with, they have malabsorption issues, they have diarrhea, bloating, they can't gain weight, they have a lot of food sensitivities. And as I discuss a lot of times in these videos, those problems have their origins further upstream in breakdowns with the organs that deal with breaking down and digesting your food. So stomach, pancreas, liver, gallbladder. As far as your pancreatic enzymes, today we're going to talk about amylase, lipase, and protease. So those are the big three. Amylase helps to break down your carbohydrates into simple sugars, and carbohydrate digestion first begins with your saliva glands. So that's why it's very important to chew your food thoroughly, break it down with your teeth, and also mix your saliva. That's the first step of breaking down carbohydrates. And then amylase does the second and final breakdown of carbs into simple sugars. Lipase breaks down fats into fatty acids and glycerol. And then proteases, which are trypsin, chymotrypsin, they break down proteins into amino acids after the stomach has done its job first. So remember our last video, I'll link it in the description of this video here. The stomach acid breaks down proteins into their amino acids using something called pepsin. And then the pancreas finishes the job. And we'll also talk about a big thing today about how the pancreas is a much needed step to neutralize stomach acid. And if you don't have good stomach acid in the first place, you're also not going to have good pancreas function. So pancreatic enzymes. Without these enzymes, your body can't absorb vital nutrients from your food. And this leads to malabsorption issues, like we said, bloating, diarrhea, nutrient deficiencies, food sensitivities. Fat digestion is particularly affected when there's poor pancreas function. Signs of this are greasy stools, which is called steatorrhea. We'll talk about a lab test for this later on. And also, if you have pale stools, if you have floating stools, those are all signs that you're not breaking down your fat very well. And the pancreas can be a gland that needs to have some support in those cases. Now, let's talk about the role that the stomach and the pancreas play together. The first step of digestion, after you've chewed your food up and you swallow it, go back to watch the stomach video. The hydrochloric acid in your stomach lowers down the pH, which activates something called pepsin, which begins to break down proteins. Now, when you're mixing that hydrochloric acid with the food you've eaten, that creates a gelatinous mixture of semi-liquid substance called chyme. The digested food mixed with the stomach acid, very, very acidic. Now, this acidic chyme is released from your stomach into the first part of your small intestine. This is called your duodenum. But for your small intestine to do its job properly, for your pancreas to work properly, we have to neutralize some of that acidity. Remember, your stomach is the most acidic place in your entire body, absolutely in your entire digestive system. If we go back here to that pH scale, 7 is a neutral pH. Anything to the right of that will be more alkaline. Anything to the left of that will be more acidic. And your stomach, the first stop in your digestion, is like a 1.5 to 2 pH. At least that's what it should be for normal, appropriate stomach acid and pepsin function. Now, Your pancreas, after your stomach has mixed that acid with your food and it moves into the first part of your small intestine, your pancreas has to neutralize that acidity, or else you're going to have big problems with the rest of your GI system, because your organs of digestion, your pancreas, gallbladder, the environment of your small intestine is not designed to handle that really harsh pH. So to neutralize that, your pancreas releases a substance called bicarbonate. I'm going to show you how you can actually look at your blood work and see if maybe there's some issues with your pancreas based upon this marker in your blood. Bicarbonate is a very strong alkaline substance. What does alkaline mean? Going over here, it's going to be on the far right side of this pH scale, helping to neutralize the far left acidity. So it releases that into the first part of the small intestine. I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. The bicarbonate neutralizes the very acidic chyme, raising the pH and creating a more favorable environment for your digestive enzymes to work normally. This buffering action protects the lining of your small intestine from damage caused by the stomach acid. Now, the enzymes that your pancreas releases, like amylase, lipase, protease, the things that finish off digestion, they work best in a neutral to slightly alkaline environment. And without proper neutralization by the bicarbonate, if the bicarbonate, if you don't have enough of that to neutralize stomach acidity, then your enzymes won't work. So even if you're taking enzymes, if we don't have that proper bicarbonate to neutralize the stomach acid, that's what makes the pancreas not turn on and release the acids, or if it does, the acids, the digestive enzymes can't work properly if there's too much stomach acid, is what I meant to say there. So looking at the pH scale, this is where your pancreatic enzymes work best at. To get from down here, stomach acid, to up here, more of a slightly alkaline pH, we have to release that bicarbonate to bring that pH up. Now, this is a look at your blood work. Most people, if you get regular, at least a few basic panels done by your doctor, it will usually include something called a comprehensive metabolic panel. Part of that comprehensive metabolic panel is going to look at your electrolyte markers. That is sodium, potassium, chloride, and CO2. There's also one called anion gap, which I didn't add up here, but the anion gap essentially is the difference between the positively charged and the negatively charged particles here. You'll get a total number for that down here. Now, we can get some insight into stomach acidity, into pancreas function, actually by looking at your blood work. And this is a patient I worked with recently. This is literally their test here. And I'm going to show you how this tells us a little bit about pancreas function. So, first of all, hydrochloric acid needs chloride to be made. So if a person doesn't have, if you have like low chloride, for example, that could be a person who has problems making stomach acid because they don't have the chloride to make the HCl, the hydrochloric acid in the stomach. That's not the case for this patient here, but if you would get your blood work back and you would see that there's low chloride, you know that you likely have low stomach acid. By the way, I forgot to mention this. I look at two ranges here. The range on the right is called the conventional range. This is the range that your doctors want your lab work to fall within. But there's a better range called the optimal or the functional range, where we really desire the markers to fall within if we're not just average, but truly healthy, really optimal for these ranges. Now, if we look at this next marker here called CO2, we call it CO2 in America. The rest of the world more accurately calls this bicarbonate. Now, what is bicarbonate? Bicarbonate is a very alkaline substance like baking soda that neutralizes acidity. So think about it this way. The lower the CO2, meaning the lower the bicarbonate, the less ability you have to neutralize acidity and the more acid your body's profile is. And that's not good because for your health, for the health of your cells, our body thrives in a slightly more alkaline environment. So if we see low CO2 like this, it could be a few things. A person could be having diarrhea, they could be a diabetic, they could have kidney issues. There are a few things that can lead to low CO2. But one of these things here is we said earlier that it's your pancreas's job to make bicarbonate. So if we have low CO2, aka bicarbonate, that could be an indirect result, an indirect marker showing us that you have poor pancreas function. So we would want to confirm this with further testing. I'll talk about a lab test in a minute here, a stool test that I run for all patients. But when you get your blood work back, this is an important thing to look at that can give you some insight into your pancreas function. Now, there's actually some hormones that play a role with your pancreatic function as well. And when we think about the gut, we don't often think of hormones. We mostly think of enzymes, bile, hydrochloric acid. But your small intestine itself releases hormones that tells your pancreas to work properly. When our stomach is releasing the chyme, the acid mixed with the food, and it enters into the first part of the small intestine, your duodenum, the first part of your small intestine, releases two hormones. One is called secretin, and it tells your pancreas to literally release the bicarbonate. The other is called cholecystokinin. We'll talk more about this in our next video. This is a hormone that tells your gallbladder to release bile. So when we think about the small intestine, we don't always think of that and connect that as hormones, but literally your small intestine doesn't just absorb your food, it plays very important roles in releasing certain enzymes itself and certain hormones. If we look at this picture here, your stomach is where all the beginning of digestion takes place. And then when we talk about pancreas, in the next video we'll talk about your liver and gallbladder. Those two glands and organs, like your liver as well, they release their substances in the very beginning part of your duodenum. So as soon as the food leaves the stomach, this first part of your duodenum is designed to deal with some acid, but very shortly on, I'm talking about within the first few inches of it leaving your stomach, this is where your pancreas releases the enzymes and the bicarbonate to neutralize that stomach acid and to get to the higher pH, the more alkaline pH, where your digestive enzymes can work better. Now, if we look at your small intestine as a whole, it's three segments. You have your duodenum, then your jejunum, then your ileum, and each as you go gets a little bit more, it starts off more alkaline, right, in the duodenum when it releases the enzymes, and then it does get slightly acidic at the end by the time it reaches the colon. Now, if we look at a few supplemental supports for this, my favorite digestive enzyme is called Multizyme. This is from Standard Process. I recommend patients take 1 to 2 capsules per meal. This is one of my favorites because it's number one, it's animal-derived enzymes. And there's a big push in the enzyme market today to use plant-based enzymes. And I'll tell you, I've not seen very much success with that. If you want to break down proteins and fats, especially animal foods, you need animal-based enzymes derived from animal glands that are much stronger than plant-based enzymes. So that's the first thing. Whether you go with this or another one, make sure it is an animal-based enzyme. This contains pancreatin. Pancreatin is kind of a blend of the amylase, lipase, and protease that we mentioned earlier. And Standard Process has a 3 times concentration, meaning that this pancreatin is a strong version that's very adequate in breaking down all of our macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. It also does contain 2 plant-based ones that are good at helping to further break down proteins and other foods, bromelain and papain. So it's going to very, very comprehensively help you to break down whatever you're eating. Now, this will support your digestion. If you have poor pancreas function, of course, we want to watch the other video, start supporting your stomach. The pancreas gets the signal to work, remember, from proper stomach acid in the first place. If we have low stomach acid, then as that food enters into your small intestine, there's no acidity to trigger the small intestine to release the secretin to tell the pancreas to turn on. So if we get your testing back, and we'll talk about that next, and we see you have low pancreas function, usually it's a result of low stomach acid first. So we want to support the stomach acid and support the pancreas simultaneously. The Multizyme does that, by the way, as does the Zypan that I talked about in the previous stomach video. But an enzyme is not going to necessarily repair your pancreas. It can help your digestion majorly. It's not something you have to stay on for life. We want to regenerate the pancreas. I'll talk about something for that next. But this is to support your pancreas. And I guess in the long run, this will help your pancreas as well by giving it a rest, because you're exogenously, meaning taking in a pill form, outside in, taking enzyme support to take some of the burden off your pancreas function. So I used this 5 years ago whenever I was very sick with severe digestive and autoimmune issues. Supporting my stomach, pancreas, liver, and gallbladder really were big steps in helping me make it out of that situation. And the Zypan from the stomach video Multizyme, something I'll talk about in the next talk where we go over liver and gallbladder function. Those were very crucial in me normalizing the beginning stages of digestion so that my bowels then functioned better. Now, after supporting with enzymes, or I would even say simultaneously supporting with enzymes, we also do want to support the pancreatic gland itself. Now, our ancestors understood in the old days that if you wanted to support an organ or a tissue or a gland in your body, you would literally eat that organ or gland of a healthy animal. Today, that's very foreign to us. We don't like the idea of eating, kidneys and hearts and liver from animals, but those are some of the most revered parts of animals in, thousands of years past. And our ancestors, especially in traditional Chinese medicine, Native American medicine, they really believed in the importance that if you wanted to energize the organs in your body, well, there was something beyond just calories in eating organs. They would energetically support the function of those same organs corresponding in your body. And usually some of the people that needed these things most in the tribes would have access to these. So like the king or the leader or the warriors of the tribe would get the heart. The pregnant women or women that just gave birth recently and were breastfeeding, they would get the liver and some of the more nutrient-dense organs here to make sure that they had the nutrients to grow that baby or to nourish that baby. One of the things they would do for good digestion is they would literally eat pancreas. In the old days, this was known as sweetbreads. I don't know why it was called sweetbreads, but they would call the thymus and the pancreas sweetbreads, and they would literally make and eat these organs from cows, sheep, probably deer, but mostly like bovine or ovine type animals, ruminant animals. Today, coming across sweetbreads is very difficult. There might be a few websites I know of online. Most people aren't going to eat them anyway, but thankfully, the day and age that we live in, there are many supplement companies that are now taking organs, freeze drying them, which preserves the nutrient quality, and then putting them into a capsule form. One of the companies we like is Ancestral Supplements. If you've ever seen like Liver King's YouTube channel or I think Instagram page, they have all the organs you could ever want to find in a supplement form. So pancreas is going to be something that doesn't just support like from enzymes like the Multizyme will. It will also do a dual fold purpose. It'll also help to support the health and the repairing and the regeneration of your body's own pancreas. So I would recommend taking both if you need pancreatic support. Enzymes to help you digest your food, beef pancreas, or if you can find like sheep pancreas to help support your body's own regeneration of your pancreatic gland. Now, one thing I didn't put a slide for in here, but something that's also very regenerative to your pancreas is fasting. I'm not going to do a whole video on that here today. I'll do a future one that deserves its own talk, and it'll be a long video if we got into all of that. But fasting, intermittent fasting, literally resting your organs of digestion is one of the best things to help them regenerate and improve their function when the time comes that you eat again. And that can be different lengths of time for everybody, depending on your own unique situation, your age, severity of your symptoms, and so forth. Now, the test that we use to evaluate pancreas health and digestive enzyme health is called a GI map test. I run this for every new patient that I work with. It evaluates numerous important digestive markers, not only your pancreas function, but two very important ones that show us the health of how your pancreas is working and how you're breaking down your food are called steatocrit and something called pancreatic elastase. So if we look at these on kind of a snapshot of a patient's lab test, this is a patient I worked with recently, and we got their test back. They had a lot of digestive issues, diarrhea, losing weight, malabsorption, bloating, food sensitivities. And so we get this back, and let's explain these results here. The first one is called steatocrit, and this is a measure of undigested fat in the stool. We don't want to see this elevated. The higher it gets, it means that the more there's undigested fat, meaning this person couldn't break down their fat very well. We see this in pancreatic cases where it's not releasing enough lipase to break down fats. We see this in cases of liver congestion, people who have had their gallbladder removed and they can't release bile properly. So, symptoms of this would be you can't tolerate high fat in your diet, you can't tolerate fried foods, not that you should be eating them anyway, greasy stools, pale stools, stools that float. Those are all indications of fat maldigestion. And so this patient technically passes. It should be below 15%. They were at 7. It really should be closer to 0, and that's why they are in the yellow here for this. So the beginnings of fat maldigestion, fat is arguably one of your most important macronutrient, and you're going to have weight gain issues, like problems gaining weight if you can't absorb your fats, hormone issues, brain function, nervous system issues, because fat is so reparative to all those organs and tissues and their functions. Now, the other one is called elastase, and elastase is a measure of pancreatic enzyme output. So if we see that this is low, we know that this person is not releasing enzymes properly. This again goes back to a conversation of, is it the pancreas by itself dysfunctioning, which this doesn't show us that, or do they also have low stomach acid function? Usually if this is low, this is a case of a person that has hypochlorhydria, low stomach acid, where the pancreas isn't turning on because the stomach acid is not there in the first place to tell the pancreas to neutralize the stomach acid. You understand, if there's no reason for the pancreas to release a lot of bicarbonate, it's not going to turn on and work appropriately in the first place. So those things really kind of work together, the stomach making the pancreas turn on and work better when we have appropriate acid. Now, this looks low here, 168, and it looks like it should be above 200. Optimally, this marker should be above 750. So 168 is quite low. I'll tell you, when I ran this test on myself in 2019, whenever I was in the beginning of all my digestive issues, my marker was at 111. One of the lowest I've seen even for any patients I've run over the past 5 years. So if this is low, absolutely, we have to support with enzymes in the interim to support the person's digestion, but also work a lot to get the pancreas itself improving in function and the stomach too. So I hope this is helpful. If you would like any help running these tests or having someone work with you to create a personalized plan to investigate your digestive issues and really take a look at the blood work and the stool testing and see what your specific issues are and what needs corrected, I'd love to work with you. Please reach out to me, send me a message. You can go to girevive.com, watch my masterclass, and book an appointment from there. But I hope this has been helpful. We're going to continue this series in the next video, going over liver and gallbladder health. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. So thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.